force me now. Awakening is clear. I could show you how. I could show you how to fight them. I could show you how to defeat them now.
That wonderful song, because that was an absolute bop, and I can't think of a better way to start the show. Parker,
You ever play that game Kingdom Hearts? I'm not much of a gamer, but you ever played that game Kingdom Hearts? Or there was like a few of them, but it was called Kingdom Hearts.
I know what you're talking. I've heard it. I've never played it. I've heard of
You
it.
go around, you're like this guy with a keyblade. You go to like different universes and shit, and it's all like Disney stuff. But that sounded like something that would be played on Kingdom Hearts. Like as soon as like Sora, the main character, got like the best keyblade. That sounds like something. That sounds like something that would be playing as he's fighting off the bad guys. I don't know. That was pretty badass.
Makes you want to like run through a wall. That was
Yeah.
that was motivate. For those of you listening podcast, you're really confused right now. You're like, this is y'all's intro, which also our podcast intro underrated. That's also a bop. The 1203 is back. Parker, how you been?
Well, I'm glad it's back. I started my podcast with my dad. Back up again. We were on episode 18, and then we just stopped for like a month, and now we're back to episode. Now we did episode 19 last week, but I'm really glad that we're back to doing the 1203 because it's just fun, man. It's fun to get your mind off of things and talk about sports. And as much as I love the other podcasts, it's kind of doom and gloom sometimes. But this podcast is always fun, always nice talking to you, and it's kind of like it's kind of like we're on a phone call. We're just talking to each other, shooting the bull, but we happen to be doing a podcast as well. So I enjoy it.
Two buddies just shooting shop, but I mean,
Yeah, just two buddies.
it's a good time every time we do it, and it's just been hectic a little bit lately. I think for both of us. So that's
For both, yeah.
if you have missed us the past few weeks, we are sorry. We will make it up to you. But the show is back. Hopefully, going to get a little bit more consistent. A couple things to talk about today, and we'll get to a lot of it. Parker, I just wanted to since I haven't talked to you in a little bit, I wanted to hear what you've been up to. What you been up to, man? Other than being Mr. Parker Ray, the teacher man.
Yeah, still getting the hang of that. Well, I'm getting better at it actually. I'm getting more of a routine down, and the kids are starting to come around, and it seems like this time of year everyone's just ready for Thanksgiving break, and then we come back for 3 more weeks, and then we have Christmas break. So it's kind of a hectic time for school teachers right now. The month of November they say is pretty hectic, and the month of February is pretty hectic. But yeah, my first year teaching has flown by for the most part, and it's been fun. It's been good to have a steady paycheck. Been good to be out here on my own in Kerrville, trying to do adult life. So yeah, just living life to the fullest right now, just enjoying every moment.
How are the Kerrville Tivy Antlers looking this year? I haven't heard. I know they haven't been great. I'm just curious how they've been.
They're not as good as normal, but they are middle of the pack. Like in that division, they have Alamo Heights and Bernie Champion, which are like the 2 studs.
Champion's tough.
And Bernie Champion is usually our rival, though. Like we usually hang in there with them. Like we'll even beat them some years. They'll beat us some years. And then Alamo Heights is like that little community in San Antonio with a bunch of like rich, spoiled kids. So they're always really good too. But Alamo Heights and Bernie Champion have always been the 2 thorn in our sides. They're looking like they're going to run away with the first 2 spots of the division. I do expect Tivy to make the playoffs, but they're going to be a 3 or 4 seed. They're not going to be a top 2 seed. They're going to be the 3rd or 4th seed. And so normally we're usually one of the 2 best teams. It's us and Champion or us and Alamo Heights. This year we've got a sophomore quarterback. He's feeling his way out, and we've got just a whole lot of things going on with COVID and things like that. Just just in general, just like everybody's dealing with. So, yeah, it's not a fantastic year for Tiger football, but we're still going to be a playoff team, and we may even win one of our first round games. But I don't expect a deep playoff run from this group.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Snyder's already out. They fell 2 weeks ago, and they only got to play 8 games this year because of COVID stuff, but they lost 2 weeks ago, so they are out. My 2 6-man teams, Ira and Hermley, they had a big matchup 2 weeks ago. Basically, it was a district championship. Hermley was 9-0. Ira was like 7-2 going in. Ira ended up winning by about 40 points. Ira, dude, you'd love Ira. Ira is old-fashioned. They're a 6-man team, but they're going to run the sweep until you figure out how to stop it. That's just how they play football.
Sounds like my type of team.
Yeah, you'd love Coach Goodwin. He's very much like, I don't care if I'm not your cup of tea. Like, I'm still going to shut it down. During that game, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, and I don't even know if this is true. They were playing not that game. It was last week's game against Aspermont. Ira was up by like 40 points. In 6-man football, there's a 45-point mercy rule. So if you're up by 45 points,
I learned about that
at the
too.
half.
That's funny.
Yeah. So Ira's up by 45 points. There's about 3 minutes left in the second quarter, and Ira's gonna kneel it out. Ira's like, I'm just gonna kneel this out, and apparently, and this is what the referee told us, and this shows you what kind of dude Coach Goodwin is. He's old fashioned. I love him. He was like, he apparently told the referees, like, I'm gonna take a knee here. If he calls the timeout, I'm gonna shove it up his ass. Sure enough, the opposing coach takes the timeout. So Ira calls a play action boot play, and the next play throws it for a 60-yard touchdown. And I didn't know about him saying that prior to the play, but when he said that, and I learned that's what he said, I was like, I love that mentality, man.
I love those stories you get to hear when you're on this, when you're like, you're doing your reporting and you hear those things, and just a little talk show I do. I hear coaches all the time say stuff to me that's like, really, you did that? I think I would like that coach. He seems like a cool guy. Yeah. So you're going to call a timeout. I'm just going to run up the score. I mean, I gave you a chance.
I gave you a chance to end it where it is right now. I wasn't going to drop 50 on you, but you decided to take a timeout, so I'm just going to shove it right up your ass. I thought that was great. Ira and Hermley are both in the playoffs. Ira in 6-man, the only top 2 teams take the district seeding.
Oh, okay.
So Ira,
it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, it's a little bit tougher. So Ira won the district. They're the number 1 seed. Hermley finished second, so they're the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
By the way, if you haven't checked, this is not an ad. If you have not tried this Dr. Pepper cream soda, dude, smacks. Anyway, so Ira's going to be playing the number 3 team in the state, and Hermley is going to be playing the number 1 team in the state. So it's going to be an interesting couple games. That'll be Thursday and Friday. I'm looking forward to both of those games.
Our place in Kerrville. Well, I don't know if it's technically in Kerrville or if it's like a little bit outside of Kerrville, but we have a little 6-man squad too. OLH, they're pretty good. I think they tend to 45 people a lot.
Is it a private school or is it
it's a private 6-man? It's got to be a private 6-man because
it's TAPS then.
It's TAPS. Yeah. It's they would never see each other. But it was just funny because like they have the 45 rule too, and they do it. It seems like consistently they're 45.
That's kind of how Ira is.
They're getting out of here at halftime. I mean, their game plan is to 45 you and get out.
Well, Hermley won 7 of their games this year. By the 45-point mercy rule. So I was shocked to see them get to the end of the season, and they ran into Ira, now Ira played a much tougher schedule. I mean, Ira was playing some Goliaths to start the year, and they ended up 8-2. So they'll be taking on a really good Westbrook team. I think Ira's ranked like 16th or 11th, somewhere in there. Westbrook is going to be 3rd. So I'm looking forward to that. If you are interested for whatever reason in the 2 6-man teams I covered, you can find my articles on thesnydernews.com. But let's get down to it, man. We have some breaking news. I wouldn't call it breaking news. It was a couple hours ago. By the way, if y'all are watching live on YouTube, feel free to leave comments, ask us questions. We will definitely make sure to respond to your comments, answer your questions. Whatever you want to hear us talk about. If you think something we said is stupid, please let us know about it.
The live chat when we were rolling, the live chat got lit when we were rolling.
It really can, and I think this shows at its best.
Controversial stuff. Yeah.
I think the show is at its best when people are talking crap. Now, Austin Ruff says, all I'm going to say is, what's up, Reed and Parker? Go Cowboys, even though we suck, and go Longhorns. That's all I have to say. We're definitely going to talk some Cowboys in a little bit. Might talk some college football. I hadn't even thought about that, because there is some things to talk about. We'll definitely have to get some college football, so stick around, Austin, for here in a little bit. We'll get to college football. Not good news for your Longhorns, but good news for my Aggies. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
That's true.
Aggies have a real legitimate shot at the playoffs. We'll get to that probably near the end of the show. Breaking news.
They do.
We learned not even an hour ago that George Springer, the Astros World Series hero playoff champion, declined the qualifying offer, which means he is officially eligible to sign with any team. If he does sign with the team that is not wearing orange and blue, aka the Houston Astros, the Astros will get a compensatory first-round pick, which would probably not be the end of the world considering they don't have one next year. So
Yeah, right. That would be a bittersweet thing.
yeah, it'd be kind of like, we lost, the best player in a decade organizations had, but hey, might get a decent rookie. You never know. So, what do you think about the George Springer situation? It seems like Houston is gonna make an effort to re-sign him, but what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Houston's going to make an effort, but I think the writing is on the wall, as we said previously. And yeah, Sean Anchondo, he's like, damn, that's a big loss. I'm checking our Old Main Entertainment group chat right now. But yeah, no, it seems like George Springer, he will not accept the qualifying offer, but I think that means that it is time to start thinking of other options out there for the Astros. And where the Astros left off this season, I'm just so proud. I know they came back from 3-0. They almost did it. So many things positive I think you can take away from the Astros season. Yes, George Springer being gone is going to suck. It's going to hurt. But you get the fans back next season, I hope. And you get Minute Maid rocking again, and you get Dusty Baker gets a whole full season again, so he can maybe figure some things out, and we'll see how this team can run it back, because they were so close this year with everything going against them. They were that close was amazing to me. So, I mean, I think they just overachieved. So I'm ready for kind of a reboot, see how they can get this thing going, and I'm excited about what they're going to do.
I 100% agree with Austin. It does stink that Springer is going to be gone, because considering he's, it's weird to call him the heart of the team, because I feel like when you look at the Houston Astros, there's 3 or 4 guys that you could call the heart of the team. You could call Alex Bregman the heart of the team. You could call Jose Altuve the heart of the team. Carlos Correa, and I think you have a real. You can definitely call Correa
this
the
year.
captain.
You actually have a legit yeah.
I think Correa is the captain through and through.
Yes, for sure.
But I think Springer was that battery the past few years, and he kicked things off at lineup, and he could hit for power. He had Gold Glove defense, which he never won a Gold Glove, which is blasphemy. But was an MVP candidate at least in the top 5 every single year, and it's gonna hurt to lose him if we do end up losing him, which it seems more and more likely that we are. In fact, it seems that the Mets are preparing to go after him pretty hard, which is a little bit shocking. I really figured he'd be locked in for Boston, and I guess it's not necessarily set in stone that he's going to New York, but everything I'm seeing.
He really likes that orange, huh?
I guess so, man. He likes the blue and orange. I don't blame him.
Might as well just stay in Houston if that's the case, man. Don't go to the Mets. Gosh.
I can tell you one thing. Astros fans are going to be much more friendly and loving of you than the New York Mets fans are like not Yankees fans, but they're definitely not good fans either. Like,
I'll tell you something. Yeah, I'll tell you something about the Mets. The Mets are kind of like you have the New York Mets and the New York Jets. They're kind of the same mold. Like their teams may not be good, but their fan bases are ruthless. They're the working class. They're not really as spoiled as some of the Yankees and Giants fans have been. So they're like the blue collar of like the New York teams. So yeah, if you go over to the Mets, every Mets fan I've talked to is pretty rough. Like if you suck, they're gonna let you know that you suck. Like it's not gonna be like easy going over there. But it'll be a different kind of media storm he has to deal with over there in New York.
I feel like the Mets are kind of a mix of the Yankees and the Red Sox, because I really don't mind the Red Sox, like especially their fan base. Like their fan base is okay, which we need to talk about. Now that I'm thinking of freaking the Red Sox, we're gonna get to that next. I think you know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I just didn't expect New York Mets to be the spot, especially considering how they just haven't been very good. I mean, they've always been solid, but they haven't quite been like a contender. And maybe
I liked when they had they had Syndergaard, they had Harvey, DeGrom. They had a really good pitching lineup for a while. that one year they made it.
They
pretty
still have a
far.
good. They still because they still have Degrom. They still have Zach
Yeah,
Wheeler.
that's
they still
right.
have, like, they've had a lot.
I mean, they had that like really good, and then I remember like I have a friend who's a Mets fan, and
I think
he
Wheeler
has
might be
no
in Philadelphia.
he has no reason to be a Mets he has no reason
Yeah,
to
he's
be
Philadelphia.
a Mets fan because they haven't always been that good, but he's said some things. I'm like, yeah, I start following the Mets. I'm like, yeah, they actually had a pretty good little system going for a while, but to kind of end the whole, I mean, to talk about the George Springer thing before we move on. I do like you said he was like the spark plug of the head of the lineup. He was kind of the poster boy for the analytical minded Astros. When they put a guy like George Springer at the top of the lineup, everyone else was like, what are you doing, Astros? Like, you're putting a power guy at the start off the lineup. And the Astros used that to their advantage because they were looking at the numbers. Okay, if he's the top of the lineup, that means he's going to get more at bats. We want our guys, our good hitters, to get more at bats throughout the season. So that's kind of the mindset they took. And George Springer was really the catalyst of that. I mean, he was on the Sports Illustrated article when they predicted the Astros were going to win in 2017. He was the face of the team at that point, and he was the guy on the article. So he was the guy on the front page of that. So, yeah, I mean, he was really the guy for a long time for us. And, yeah, we've gotten better and we've gotten more guys around him now, and we will miss him. But it's just going back. He was the guy for a long time for us.
Yeah, and you look at possible replacements. I think Jackie Bradley Jr. is a nice option. I think bringing Michael Brantley would be great. Bringing him back, I don't think he'd be super expensive. But if you were able to sign Jackie Bradley Jr., you could go Brantley, Bradley in center, Tucker in right or left, and you could put Brantley whichever one you want. You could also just sign Brantley and give Miles Straw a shot every day, because I really like what Miles Straw can do on a diamond. I mean, his speed is game changing. If he can just get on base at the top of the lineup, like, I know the Astros are all about putting your best hitters at the top of the lineup, but I think just that base, just imagine how many runs that dude would score with that kind of wheels hitting in front of the top of that lineup. Before I move on to Alex Cora, I want to address Austin's comment. Like I said, we're going to get to every comment. He said, Reed, you going to talk about the Honda Wows? I know it's something no one else really cares about, but I'm super excited about how they looked in the regular season. You're not interrupting your show. It's the whole point of the show. We talk about whatever our fans want us to talk about.
Yeah.
I think the Honda Wows are an exciting team that have a shot to do some really cool things this year. I think they're going to win this week against Ingleside. Next week's going to be when we find out, is this a Hondo team that can make a run, or is this a Hondo team like every other Hondo team? If they win this week, Wimberley is likely going to beat their first round opponent. I don't remember who it is, but they're playing a weaker team, like a 5-5 team. If Hondo can knock off Wimberley in I think it'd be the area playoffs, they got a shot, because Wimberley is always a contender every single year. And if you can go in and really not even just beat Wimberley, but take it to them, I'll be convinced that this is a year to pay attention to.
So Hondo's been playing for a while now. They're almost to playoff time, correct?
Oh, yeah, they're in the playoffs. They're in their by district.
Oh, well,
this
see,
week.
That's what I was wondering, because Tivy still has a way to.
So Hondo's 4A. So 1A through 4A is on pretty much regular schedule. Anything higher than 4A, I think they still have like 4 weeks to go.
So Hondo's on the regular. They're getting ready for playoffs. Okay, so it's exciting. All right.
Yeah, and they had a great year. They won the district. It's the best team that I think Hondo's had in a while. They look really good, and they got a pretty interesting matchup in the bi-district playoffs with Ingleside. Another 7-3 Ingleside is. I think Hondo's either 8-2 or 9-1. I'm not 100% sure, but they're up there. I know they lost to Comfort. I don't know if they lost any other games. That might have been their only loss. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Comfort, yeah.
Austin, let me know if they'd lost another game other than Comfort. But yeah, I mean, so I think they got a chance to do something special. But like I said, if they can get past Ingleside, and then they can beat Wimberley, then I'll get on the Hondo train. Until then, I don't really buy it. Hondo does this every single year, so we'll see.
Yeah,
we will see.
Hondo only has the one loss. They're 8-1, and they were 4-0 in district. So
That's right. They had a game canceled. Yeah.
They had the game canceled, but yeah, like you said, big game against Ingleside. I'm just looking it up right here. I'm excited. I hope Hondo does good.
Make sure to tune in to my dad's radio broadcast with Bobby Hainsley. I think there's an audiosports.net or whatever it is, whatever a lot of schools are using. My dad and Bobby, longtime radio broadcasters, are now doing an online stream. So make sure if you can't make it to wherever they're playing at, I don't really know where.
They
tune
beat
in to
Andrew's
Tomcat.
School. They beat Bandera 56-14.
Oh, and Andrew broadcasted. Andrew broadcasted that game, and he sounded so sad for about half that game. And it was so nice. I wish
Well,
I
it
had,
is hard. It is hard to broadcast a game like that when your team's getting
Kidding.
stomped.
I don't think in Bandera. They might have won one game all year. They were bad. After last year, they were a pretty good team, and they were predicted like second or third in the district behind Hondo and Divine. They were bad this year, so that was less than ideal for
Yeah,
the
Bandera
average
was
Bulldogs. fan.
Bandera didn't win a single game. They were 0-5 in district and 0-9 overall.
Parker, let's get mad.
I'm mad.
Urgh! Alex Cora got his damn job back. That pisses me off. Pisses me
Yeah,
off. And everyone's
and
okay
it
with
could
it.
have been and everyone was applauding it. Everyone was like, "Woohoo! Go Alex Cora, way to come back!" And then when AJ Hinch, I mean, let's just say this: that people were way more mad about the Astros than they were about the Red Sox, even though it was the same result. They both won a World Series cheating. I don't know how you can be mad at one and
And the
like
guy
be okay with the other.
and the guy that the Red Sox re-signed to be the manager was pretty
Cora
much
was
the
the
guy
head of
at
the
the
thing.
head of
He
it.
was the main guy.
He was the one that's him and Beltran, whatever, were the ones that started it in Houston. It was their idea. It was their brainchild.
And that's been well documented. And
Well
that's
documented.
And people have known that Alex Cora, Beltran, they were the ones that people were saying at some point should get a lifetime ban. Well, now all of a sudden, oh, come on, Cora. Now I guarantee Cora goes back to the Red Sox, and then the Red Sox gets George Springer. The media is gonna forget that George Springer and Alex Cora were on that cheating Astros team.
They've
They're
already
gonna
completely forgotten that
it.
Charlie Morton was. They've
Oh,
already
they're
completely forgotten.
they're super happy for Morton. They're going to be super happy for
Which me
Springer
too, I
wherever
love
he
Morton.
goes.
But
I love those guys. I mean, Morton and Springer both, but it's the hypocrisy of they're not really mad about cheating, because if they were, they would be mad at these guys, and now they're just mad at the Astros. They're mad at Houston, Texas. They're mad at the Houston Astros, even though it's proven that Cora was the main guy, but they don't seem to care.
it's very well documented that he and Beltran were the two ringleaders of the whole operation.
Yeah.
Hinch gets fired alongside Luno, which we can talk about if you want to. I know that he's up to some shit, but
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Luno. I mean, Hinch gets fired, even though he obviously had to have known of it, but I mean, he was no more guilty than Alex Cora. And he goes and signs with the Tigers, and the Tigers are catching all this heat for re-signing a cheater. Blah 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 blah. Now, Red Sox literally bring back the guy. No, it's not like the freaking Angels signed Alex Cora to be their manager. The team that he cheated with, one of the two teams that he cheated with, they re-signed him, and everyone's like, good for the Red Sox. That was a good move. He's a good guy. You hit it right on the nail, Parker. The hypocrisy is just, it's almost amazing and impressive in a
Yeah.
way. Like,
It's commitment, all right. It's something. I don't know if I would use the word amazing, but it's something. I know what you mean, though. Like, it's like the steps they go.
dumbfounding. That's the word.
Dumbfounding. Yes, the
I'm
steps they go
dumbfounded.
through, the hoops they have to walk through, just to prove their point, just to prove that they're whatever, they're anti-cheating, whatever. The way they, like, you pin them down on this on Twitter. You'll pin somebody down and say, well, wasn't Cora the main guy or whatever? And they'll make up some outrageous excuse as to why they need to be mad at the Astros and not mad at Cora or whatever. That they'll find a way. I mean, I guess it is something to watch, because it's like the way they backtrack and maneuver things. You make a simple point. Yeah, the Astros cheated, but didn't Cora wasn't he the main guy? And they're like, well, that's not important. It was the Astros. I mean, I don't know how they do it, man. They do it every day.
And then they
exhausting.
have the audacity to not even punish Justin Turner in any way at all.
The
Nothing.
COVID thing. Yeah.
Nothing.
the COVID
Didn't
thing.
he get
I
like
mean,
20-something people sick? Something
But
like
do
that?
they? Yeah. So does baseball really care about COVID, or do they only care about COVID if it's certain teams? Because it's their precious Los Angeles Dodgers. This 2020 COVID season, which what it is, it's a COVID season. If you want to talk about asterisks, this is an asterisk season right here.
This is an asterisk.
But this is a
100%.
definite
This is
asterisk.
way more of an
Way
asterisk
more
than
of an
anything on the
asterisk
2017
than whatever you
season.
want to say. This is asterisk season, okay? But so the Dodgers win this whole 2020. This is the same way I felt about the NBA. The NBA this year, the way the playoffs were structured, and the way certain players got hurt or Like there was COVID protocols being violated and certain players were having to sit out. It shaped up for LeBron James to have an easy path to the NBA Finals and win his 4th ring. Woohoo! Go Lakers! Whatever you want to say, but the narrative was there for LA Lakers. Well, the narrative was also there for the Dodgers. The Dodgers were going to get their revenge, whether it be the Astros or whoever makes it. The Dodgers were finally going to get their World Series ring. God forbid. I mean, I think they may have paid Kevin Cash off because the calls he made actually, I think, helped the Dodgers, and I think maybe that was part of the whole
taking
gig.
Blake Snell out. What was that?
I mean,
and then they
the
still
whole
gave him
thing
AL Manager of the
way
Year.
too fishy. Looked way too fishy. Yeah, no, they said, here, we'll give you AL Manager of the Year if you do this and tank the World Series. Okay, what up? I mean, that's what it seemed like. It was set up for it just seemed like it was way too set up for the Dodgers to have their comeback moment and finally win the World Series. I know all the LA fans are cheering and whatever LA fans do, but man, this whole season is for pro sports has been very frustrating.
If they're gonna celebrate this one like it's a real one, then we're celebrating ours like it's a real
Oh,
one.
heck yeah. No, that gives us a full excuse. Yeah,
I don't
Dodgers
give
fans
a
are celebrating. We're that banner still hangs high in Minute Maid.
It ain't going anywhere. If this one counts, then ours. I don't care. I don't even care. Especially like, why would you pull Blake Snell in that situation? It doesn't make any. Dude was dealing. He was dealing. Why would you pull him? Like, why?
And it happened, and I would say
it happened in the ALCS too. It almost cost them against us.
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be it. I thought that was gonna blow the series for. I was like, yep, they did it this time. They literally did it. And again, Kevin Cash did not learn his lessons. It seemed like well, for one thing, I am glad that we now have Dusty Baker, because Dusty would have said, "Oh, hey, let it ride, boy. You think you can do it? Prove yourself." Dusty, he has faith in his players. But some coaches like that with those analytics, and sometimes I question if they really need to kind of trust their gut a little more instead of those analytics sometimes, because sometimes you see a guy who's dealing and maybe something tells you to take him out, but you're like, man, this guy, he's had a couple rough pitches, but I'm going to have faith in my guy. And that goes a long way in the clubhouse. So I think Kevin Cash has to really rethink some things, because he probably lost some credibility there in that clubhouse.
No, 100%, and I guess we'll see. He did still win his Manager of the Year award, so didn't get the World Series trophy, though. Let's move on to some NFL, even though the NFL are kind of sad times as of late. Let's start with the Dallas Cowboys before we get, let's start with the already depressing Dallas Cowboys before we get to the even more depressing Houston Texans.
How does that happen? It's like
how does the Dallas Cowboys have an absolute collapse of a season, and I still consider the Texans to be having a kind of a more depressing year? That just shows
because there is no chance for the Texans.
there
actually is a chance for the Cowboys to win.
I thought
you guys can still win that division. You guys can still win that division.
Especially if Garrett Gilbert keeps playing like he did. I was impressed by Garrett Gilbert. I thought he made some things happen that I wasn't expecting, especially for a dude that just showed up that week. Yeah. Like, I thought he looked way better than Andy Dalton did. And you know me, I'm a big Andy Dalton guy, but the fact that Andy Dalton looks so bad, I was really impressed with what Garrett Gilbert did. I know he didn't put up huge points, but once he gets in that system, all he's got to do is get the ball to the playmakers. Yeah. Get the ball to CeeDee Lamb on the curl route, on the slant route. Hit him on the screen. Hit Amari Cooper on the post. Like, he's going to run it. He's going to have the guy beat by 5 yards. Hit him in the chest. Like, it's not a hard – I mean, it's obviously a hard job. It's an NFL quarterback. But, I mean, as far as stepping into an offense and having to figure it out, there are much worse situations to be jumping into. Maybe the O-line is probably not as strong as it usually is because we got some injuries. Tyrod Smith is still not – he might even be out for the year. I'm not really sure. I know that he's not playing. So they've got 2 undrafted guys at the 2 tackle positions. That's not the best scenario. But still, I mean, as far as weapons to throw the ball to, it's a plethora. So I think if Garrett Gilbert can just get in there, get the ball to the playmakers, do some little dumping dimes, Dak Prescott rookie year. Like, come on.
The Cowboys are only 1 game behind the Eagles in the win column. 1 game. The Eagles have 3 wins. The Cowboys have 2.
The Eagles are playing the Redskins this week, though, so they'll probably win this week. Probably the Eagles may still be, but I mean, it's wide open. But then you go to the Texans division. It's like, okay, 2-6, and the Colts are 5-3, and the Titans are 6-2. I guess they did lose another one. Well, it's not completely out of reach, but it's getting that way because both the Colts and the Titans are pretty solid. The Titans especially.
I don't know how bad. Got their 2 losses though, so I guess the Titans are kind of backsliding a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. I have given up hope though. I definitely have more faith in the Cowboys to do something in the playoffs than the Texans. I think the Texans are ready to see what's next for them because it just seems like they're trying to get past this Bill O'Brien era. They're trying to throw this season away.
It probably won't happen this year.
Yeah.
Do they?
Well, no.
They, here's an interesting thing, because like you said, this year's probably kind of out the window. There's a lot of noise around Mr. Justin James, the guy who has been Mr. Texan for years and 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 years. I mean, the guy, he's the voice of the locker room. He's the face of the franchise. I mean, and I know Deshaun's getting there, but he's not JJ. And he's not on that level yet. And I think you'd agree with me there. Now, what is going to happen with JJ Watt? How much value does he have? Is he? Because let's be honest, if I'm the Houston Texans, I'm not trading JJ Watt for anything less than a first-round pick. But if you can't even trade DeAndre Hopkins for a first-round pick in this league,
well, the guy who did all that is gone now, so I don't know what to think of it.
But the value of this league is all over the place.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you can get for JJ. I mean, yes, he's still really, really good, but I don't know. First off, I do want to look at his age. Okay, so he's 31 years old. He's not. That's pretty old for definitely a defensive lineman. He can still get things done. He keeps his body in good shape. He's upset. He's upset with some things about the Texans, and he's upset. There were some front office firings. Not Bill O'Brien, but there was some other firings when the Texans were cleaning house.
I know there was a PR manager fired today that he really didn't.
Yeah,
like.
Big loss for us. Amy Pausick, I think.
Something like that. I saw him tweet.
I think it was a woman. I think it was a woman, Amy Pausick. He said on NBC Sports right now, I'm looking at the article, that was a big loss for us. If you're not happy with the PR person you have, then that's a big step into because we see it with sports information directors at the college level, the SIDs. We deal with them all the time. They were the guys that they had to have a good relationship with the players, the college players. Well, right. the PR people, it's kind of the same thing. You have to have a good relationship with your PR department and your players. So that way the media work. I mean, it makes the player's life better if they have a good PR person. So the fact that they were just cleaning house and firing that, and I don't know if he was just saying that to say that, but it seems like he was pretty close to this PR person. Then I think that's another example of just more frustration that JJ's having with the Texans. I mean, he's been frustrated pretty much all year. I mean, he wants to win a ring. He wants to win a Super Bowl. He doesn't want to backslide, and it seems like this year has just been a huge, monumental backslide. I mean, the Texans went from – I know I keep talking about last year, but that's how frustrating it is because last year they were there. I mean, they were there with the Chiefs. They blew that game, but they were there for the first quarter of that game. They were hanging in there with the Super Bowl champs. And now all of a sudden you fast forward to where we are in 2020, and they're looking at the cusp of being one of the worst teams in the league. So it's like, how does this happen? And there's a few things you can point at with the Hopkins trade and Bill O'Brien doing what he does, but there's a lot of frustration in Houston right now. So if JJ does leave and we do tend to take a couple steps back, then yeah, I think you have to. Because what if a new guy comes in and he just wants to reshape everything? Well, then JJ's probably going to want to leave. JJ's probably not going to want to sit through. He's
like 30-something years old.
He's 31 years old.
He's not trying to sit through another rebuild.
No, he doesn't need to. He needs to go to a contender and be a missing piece somewhere. And I don't know where exactly, but I'm excited to see.
Here's an interesting thing about it. I was mentioning JJ's value, and me personally, I love JJ Watt, but I don't think he's
not as valuable as he used to be.
Top tier pass rusher that he once was. And here's an example. Yannick Ngakoue, who is probably one of the best pass rushers in the league right now. He's in his prime. He's been to the Pro Bowl. He's younger. I think he's like 27, 28. He was traded to the Baltimore Ravens in October from the Vikings. They got a third-round pick for him, and then a conditional fifth-round pick in 2022. So they got one guaranteed pick, and it wasn't even a first-round. It was a third-round pick and a conditional fifth-round pick. That doesn't bode well for Houston. What are you going to get
Yeah.
Maybe you get a bit more because of his name, but are you going to get a first rounder? I'd be, unless you somehow package Will Fuller into it, because I know there's a lot of teams that want Will Fuller, which I don't understand. Other than maybe you already have a number one, adding a deep threat, I can understand that. If you're trying to get a number one guy, Will Fuller is not your guy, and that's just my opinion. But if you need a deep threat to go alongside a DeAndre, I don't know, let's just throw a name out there, a Michael Thomas, which Michael Thomas has not played much this year anyway. But besides the point, unless you're making a package trade like that, I don't see anyone giving a first round, other than maybe a team that's like maybe like the Chiefs, but they don't really need it. But just a team that like is a shoe in for the playoffs, shoe in to make a run, that needs a good D lineman. That's like the only team, and I don't know if there's any team that fits that bill, but I'd be shocked if the Texans got a first round pick. But if I'm the Texans, I'm not trading him for anything less than a first round pick.
And well, it's going to be hard because as I'm reading this CBS article, the headline says J.J. Watt trade from Texans to contender is a virtual certainty after the 2020 season. Everyone already knows it. He's turning 32 next year. He's going to be 32. But this is what some sources have said in this article, basically saying it's a wrap, said one source. He knows he only has so many games left, and he is ready to go try it to win. The guys in the locker room are bracing for it. So the locker room is ready for it. After he got that 100 career sacks, and they had this little celebration in the locker room. It was
JJ seemed very excited about it.
JJ gave a speech, and JJ's speech wasn't as energetic as it usually is. It was more of like, I worked with this team. I'm happy we got the win. But it wasn't anything spectacular JJ moment that everybody was looking forward to. And all the players actually kind of seemed like, oh, this is kind of a bummer. We gave him the speech and now he's being kind of a bummer. And Romeo Crennel kind of looked like he was lost. And it just looked like it was a downer of a speech. And I think the owner, Cal McNair, I think he does actually he's not the dad, he's the son. And I think he does respect JJ a little too much. And he knows that this chapter is over for JJ. I think that's what I'm reading from all these articles. And there's one GM that says he'll be traded by March. Bank on it. They already know. I mean, these guys
sold.
These guys know. I mean, these are GMs from CBS. This is just CBS Sports, just random sources that they're quoting. Of course, they don't give you names, but they say an anonymous source, whatever. But a lot of NFL sources are saying JJ's gone. He won't be here by early next year. He's going to be gone. So that's what it seems like to me. And if people know that, then I think your value automatically kind of goes down if people know you're trying to get rid of them. But we'll see what happens. I don't know.
I think so. I was looking at the standings and I was trying to think of a team that would fit that bill.
Yeah.
Adding a first rounder, giving up a high draft pick for a JJ Watt. I'm going to throw a couple names at you. I want to see what you think.
Okay.
Seattle. They signed Jadeveon Clowney in the offseason. The defense has been abysmal. They signed Jadeveon Clowney. He's not done much. He's been almost an afterthought. His work ethic continues to just be an issue. They're 6-2 still because of Russell Wilson and that crazy passing game. Would be adding a J.J. Watt veteran, even just that presence on the defense, be a smart move for them? That's an option. Arizona, a young team with a really MVP caliber type quarterback. I don't know what their D-line looks like a whole lot. I know they have Isaiah Simmons roaming around. He does a little bit of everything. I think they have Calais Campbell on the D-line, if I remember correctly. He's a good player, but I think that maybe. Don't know if they give up a first rounder for him. Green Bay. I don't think Green Bay isn't hugely to pass rush. Just another team that's up there that could potentially make that kind of trade. I don't think they trade him to a AFC South rival.
Because
shocked.
now
Buffalo
it
makes
looks like
sense.
Buffalo
makes sense.
Well,
Buffalo. What does Buffalo have on the D line?
I don't know. Their defense doesn't seem to be that much of a problem though. The
But
Buffalo
their
Bills
offense,
are rolling.
And I mean, what's his name? The quarterback.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen
is rolling.
He's an MVP, dude. I mean, he's that caliber of player. And
I think all those teams are. I think any one of those teams that wants to win a championship, I think would love to have another. Because what is that one thing they say? Oh, in baseball, it's pitchers. You can never have enough pitchers.
Can't ever have enough pitching.
But you can never have enough pass rushers in football. I mean, the more pass rushers you have, the better. I mean, that's I mean, you stop the other team's quarterback from throwing the football, you win the game. I mean, that's it. They can't
Okay.
drop back.
Buffalo makes sense. They've got
Yeah.
Trent Murphy on
Yeah.
the left side.
Then imagine JJ.
He's
You can move
okay.
JJ around.
You
but
can move Vernon Butler as one of the
Yeah.
DTs alongside Ed Oliver, former Cougar.
I know Ed Oliver.
He's a good football player. And then
Yeah.
Jerry Hughes.
Seems like they're pretty good already, but
They're solid, but I think
Yeah.
JJ could fit in here.
and he could be a veteran to those
Their
younger
depth
guys.
isn't anything that impressive, and I think that.
Well,
could
if
be a
JJ
potential
comes
fit.
in, I mean, he's gonna automatically be a starter wherever he goes. But he's still good enough to do that. So
he's
he
still
goes
good enough
somewhere.
to do that.
Yeah, he's still good enough to be a starter, to be a locker room guy. And yeah, I don't see him going to any of the teams in the AFC South, but I do see him. I don't see him because right now, because you were talking about Clowney's now actually with the Titans now. He was with
right.
the
he was
he
with
was
the
with the
Seahawks, and he
Seahawks, but now he's with the
sucked, and that's why
Titans.
they
So
got
we
rid of him. So the
we already
Seahawks
see
make a lot of
Clowney
sense.
twice, and I don't really want the Cardinals because we've already gotten Hopkins there. So like Hopkins and JJ Watt, we just give them to the Cardinals.
You're probably right. I don't know if there's
It
much
would be
chemistry
weird.
there.
It would be weird
Anymore.
And then what's some of the teams? Seahawks. I could see the Seahawks. I could see the Buffalo Bills. Those were the two teams you said.
Seahawks and Buffalo both.
I would
make
love
sense.
for him to go to Pittsburgh and play with his brothers.
They got TJ
all three Watts. Yeah, but TJ's a different position. TJ's outside linebacker.
He's-
JJ's
yeah,
more of
but
a
he comes
defensive
off
end.
the end more than anything, man. He's a pass rusher.
I know, but you got him on one end, JJ on the other. I'm just saying. I don't know. That would be.
I
Like
think that'd be a
magical thing.
lot of fun, but for
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, especially to give up, like I said, if I'm Houston, I'm getting a first rounder off of
Well,
JJ.
you got to get a first rounder, or you got to get a good, like a top tier receiver.
or you
That
got
would
to
be the
get,
only thing.
or maybe some kind of pass blocker. But
I'm getting a go-to receiver.
Seattle,
That's what
Seattle
you need.
and Buffalo both make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But in that sense, if you're trying to get a top tier receiver, what contending team is going to give you their best receiver?
Well, that's why you're not gonna. It's not gonna happen this year. It would be next year before it would happen. It
Maybe
would
in
be
the
like
offseason?
off-season. It's not gonna happen because the guy said before March. Well, the season's over after. I mean, the season will be over.
By the way,
in February. So
Shane Bauer won the AL Cy Young. Shane Bieber won the AL, the Indians, and then Trevor Bauer won the NL Cy Young. So I still think Trevor Bauer to Houston is a possibility. It's just something to keep an eye on.
we've said it. We want it. I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
I'm okay with it. There's a lot of Astros fans that aren't. I think I am. I think I could roll with it. But
Yeah.
before we close things out, let's talk some college football. The Texas A&M Aggies have a legitimate shot at a playoff berth. Which,
Wow.
if you had told me that after the Alabama game, this team is rolling right now. I mean, I think ever since the Alabama game, they have stepped it up to another level.
Yeah,
have
they're
been-
5-1 in conference. I mean,
They have been
yeah,
taking
they're
it
5-1
to
overall.
some
5-1
good
in
teams.
conference.
They have been. I mean, Arkansas's not a bad team. They took it to them.
No, Arkansas's 3-3 right now.
South Carolina's a solid team. They took it to them. I mean, Mississippi State. I don't think Mississippi State's down a little bit here. They beat them. They knocked off Florida. I mean, Alabama kind of took it to them, but Alabama takes it to everybody. And then, of course, the Vanderbilt game to start the year. They still got Ole Miss. I believe that game is next week. They have a bye week this week. Ole Miss, LSU, which they're way down this year. So suck on that, Brendan. You're gonna get your ass kicked.
LSU is worse than Arkansas this year,
Oh, LSU's having a terrible year. They've fallen off a cliff.
which I'm
Auburn,
happy for Arkansas right now. But yeah,
Auburn, Tennessee, and then the SEC championship. I don't think many of those teams are beating the Aggies. If they keep playing like they're playing right now, maybe Tennessee. I think Tennessee is pretty tough. I'd be shocked if any of those teams knocked off the current Aggies. Isaiah Spiller's running out of his damn mind. He's the running back. I think he's a sophomore. Could be wrong on him being a sophomore. 643 rushing yards. They have so many weapons, dude. So many weapons. Isaiah Spiller's true, and he's an NFL back. Anaya Smith, you can run him at the slot. You can run him out of the backfield. You can throw screens to him. He's electric. Devon Kane's a freshman. I mean, Kellen Mond has been throwing some dimes lately.
yeah.
Like I said, and you look at the schedule, Ole Miss, LSU, Auburn, Tennessee. I don't think any of those teams are beating the Aggies, man. I think the Aggies, it's going to come down to the SEC championship. I don't
Wow.
think any of those teams are beating the Aggies.
That they were talking about their schedule. I mean, yeah, I think you have a good point. I'm excited. College football has been fun for me this year
It's
because
been a lot more fun
pro
than the NFL.
football hasn't been as fun for me. But
As long as you're not talking Texas State.
Yeah, Texas A&M, whatever. But that still sucks. for
Brady,
them.
we
But
had so much hype for you, Brady, and you just let us all down.
I'm really excited about this Hog. I know they lost to the, but they didn't. They beat Tennessee last week. But they did end up. They didn't lost to A&M, which is the game we usually both like to watch. But yeah, A&M
It was
just
a good
looked
game.
so powerful, man. They looked powerful. They were moving the ball at will. I do like. So if you noticed, Arkansas is a little bit different now. They're a lot more up tempo. They're
not the 680
same-
pound linemen.
Yeah, they're not the same Arkansas Razorbacks you're used to. They're way more up tempo, and they're way more like I guess Felipe Franks, their quarterback. They got him from Florida. He's a transfer, and he's brought some stability to that offense. I really do like Coach Pittman. He was an offensive line coach, but he fits in great with Arkansas. And then Rakeem Boyd, the running back, and Traylon Burks,
He's a
the
former
receiver.
Aggie. And he was also
yeah.
on Last Chance U.
Rakeem Boyd has been great for us.
He's
the
a good running
Hogs.
back.
And Traylon Burks has been great for us out on the edge for the the receivers. So yeah, the Hogs have a pretty good thing going for them right now. I don't expect them. I mean, I do actually think they'll get into a bowl game, but I don't expect them to do anything else. But I think it's kind of cool that they're actually in contention in some of these games and starting to win some SEC games. So it's exciting to have them back in the fold. And yeah, their schedule isn't as easy. I mean, they have to play Florida. I actually think the Hogs can beat LSU this year, which is always a big rivalry for us.
Well,
I actually think the
LSU
Hogs
is
can
so
beat
down.
LSU.
Does LSU even have a winning record?
No, they're 2-3, I think.
That's bad.
But and then Arkansas plays Mizzou. Well, Arkansas plays Florida.
Mizzou's
LSU,
tough. Mizzou's tough.
and-
Their
and
quarterback's
Alabama.
legit.
So I
Mizzou?
think out of those, they probably only can beat LSU. But still, they've been playing competitive
I think
games.
the Mizzou game will be a good game.
they could probably still win against. They could probably steal a game against Mizzou. But
I
yeah,
think Mizzou's good. That's
I
a
don't.
winnable game.
But the thing is, I don't actually just automatically count it as a loss. I used to count Arkansas games as just a loss. Now I'm like, okay, let's actually see how this goes. This might actually be a good SEC game. So I'm excited again.
Yeah, LSU. What a weird season. Lost to Mississippi
who
State,
cares? Ooh.
and then they beat the crap out of Vanderbilt, and then they lost to Missouri, beat the crap out of South Carolina, got the crap beat out of them by Auburn. Apparently, they had just avoided Alabama. That game got postponed, so that would have been disgusting. Arkansas, A&M, Ole Miss, Florida. I bet they finish under 500. I'd be shocked.
I bet they lose. Yeah, I bet they lose to Arkansas. I mean,
I bet they lose 2 out of
Yeah.
those 5 games.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
be shocked if they finish with a winning record. But
Yeah.
a little bit of a shorter show today, but I think it was a
Yeah.
good show. I think we
Our
talked
battery's about to die, so it actually worked out.
I think we talked some really good stuff today.
Yeah, I did. I agree. I'm glad to have us. It's already getting dark out there, man. See, my room just went completely black, so it's already getting pretty dark. But yeah, so I guess it's time to wrap this thing up.
It's that time of the year where the show gets shorter, so do the days.
Yep.
I'll see you next week, Burger.
See you, man.
Don't forget to listen on. You can get the audio version if you did not catch it live. If you ever don't catch it live, you can always get the audio version on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, SoundCloud. And if you're listening on podcasts, try to catch us live every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. See y'all.